Hi everyone, this is Chris Stone, Director of Political Operations at the National Association for Gun Rights. And today we want to give you a legislative update. Specifically, we're going to be talking about red flag gun confiscation bills. But before I get into that, just want to encourage everyone to follow us here on our YouTube channel. You can also follow us on other social media outlets, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and you can check us out on the web at nationalgunrights.org. And so today, like I said, we want to talk about this concept of red flag gun confiscation bills. And just to start out, the National Association for Gun Rights, we oppose all red flag bills, whether at the state level or the bills that you're seeing introduced in Washington, D.C. And that's what we're going to talk about today and break those down together. So first of all, what are red flag gun confiscation bills? Well, in their essence, these bills call for legally owned firearms to be forcibly removed, confiscated from law-abiding citizens without any due process whatsoever, and often based on unsubstantiated accusations from disgruntled family members or neighbors or coworkers or current or former roommates or former romantic partners. Sometimes these bills are rebranded as extreme risk protection orders or gun violence restraining orders. They try to repackage them to make them sound nice, but on its basis, this is truly gun confiscation. These laws rely solely on the issuing of ex parte orders, in other words, a one-sided order in court where you're not present to defend yourself, where you don't even know that it's happening. And these orders authorize SWAT teams and police to literally come to your doorstep unannounced and to confiscate your firearms based off of an accusation from somebody you may have known years ago. And there's no right to an attorney. There's no due process rights at all on your part. It's essentially take the guns first and due process later. It's gun confiscation without due process. So what we want to do today is talk about really the top 5 problems with red flag gun confiscation orders so you can be armed with the facts to fight back against gun control. So first of all, one of the alarming things you see at the federal level, at the national level, is that this is legalized bribery. Essentially, lawmakers are crafting legislation to say, hey, we'll use tax dollars from honest, everyday Americans to fund gun control programs. And they're basically telling states, if you pass these red flag gun confiscation bills, and it's very carefully worded, they cannot protect due process and they have to take the guns first, we'll give you money and incentivize you to enforce these laws. So they're literally bribing states to pass gun confiscation orders where you live. They are essentially doing all the dirty work and they're saying, we'll funnel money into your state coffers so that they can enforce these laws and violate your rights as a law-abiding citizen. Second, these gun confiscation orders is really taking the guns and only the guns. You know, they always want to talk about that this is about safety, but if you read the legislation carefully, all these orders do is take guns away. Notice they don't do anything to remove knives from someone's home or propane tanks or access to a vehicle or access to prescription medication. It's all solely focused on taking your firearms away and then saying you are basically guilty until proven innocent, where you have to expend tens of thousands of dollars in hiring a lawyer to fight back for your natural God-given rights. I mean, that's a complete violation of everything we know about the Constitution and about the ability for you to defend yourself. Third, these laws are ripe for abuse. Red flag laws specifically target law-abiding citizens who've never committed a crime. In other words, it's an unconstitutional pre-crime program of sorts, something that you'd expect to see in communist China, not in the United States of America. What will happen is abusive partners and criminals will actually use red flag laws to disarm normal law-abiding citizens, their partners or their neighbors. And even worse, most red flag laws that have been passed into law, they don't do anything to provide real substantial penalties for false accusations. And the ones that do are basically a slap on the wrist. So if you get your firearms taken away where you're basically guilty until proven innocent and you have to expend tens of thousands of dollars to fight for your rights back, and it turns out that it was a false accusation all along, the person who accused you usually just walks away with a minor offense. I mean, that is ridiculous. Number 4, really lives are at stake. When red flag gun confiscation orders are passed into law, it puts everyday law enforcement officers and law-abiding citizens in danger. We've seen this as evidenced by a tragic case in Maryland where a man had a red flag order executed against himself. He didn't know it, didn't have his day in court, had no idea. The police showed up at his house at 5 in the morning. It was dark outside. He's confused. You can imagine you're scared if you hear beating on your door and noise coming. Grabbed his gun and was unfortunately killed in the shootout with the police. So we really need to take seriously about protecting ourselves and protecting our law enforcement officers. If the federal government is bribing states and police agencies to start seizing people's guns, it's really going to put everyday law enforcement officers and citizens in danger with one another. And finally, there's zero due process. Red flag gun confiscation laws assume the accused are guilty until proven innocent. Not a single one of the states that have passed red flag gun confiscation laws include the right to due process. In fact, it's impossible to confiscate guns first and provide due process later. It just doesn't make sense. Under red flag gun confiscation orders, the burden of proof is much lower to take your guns than to get them back. So next time you hear a politician advocating for one of these Orwellian laws, you'll be able to see past their smokescreen and realize they're just touting gun confiscation, plain and simple. In conclusion, the National Association for Gun Rights opposes all red flag gun confiscation laws, whether at the national or state level. So let's break down again what we covered here in this video. First, red flag gun confiscation laws are only about taking guns and only guns. It's not about safety. Secondly, red flag laws at the federal level are designed to bribe states into passing gun control. Third, these laws are ripe for abuse. Fourth, red flag gun confiscation laws are dangerous for law enforcement officers and law-abiding gun owners alike. And finally, there's no due process whatsoever. Red flag laws violate your right to due process and your Second Amendment rights altogether. And if you want to read a more in-depth study about red flag gun confiscation orders, you can visit our website at nationalgunrights.org and check out our Bill Watch page where we break down other legislative issues. Thanks.